Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's episode I'm going to be covering a couple of questions that I get asked by a few people. I say a few, mainly my sister who's new, but I'm sure that there's other people out there that obviously also want to learn how to play Guild Wars and everything else. So first question is, how do I know I'm doing the right thing with my profession? Now, that's a bit of a complicated question, okay? Firstly, let's take a look at the hero panel here, alright? So, what you want to be looking at is, obviously, you want to be looking at your build, and you want to be looking at your training from level 11 onwards. You get hero points for doing, like, hero challenges across the map and everything else. What I'd say is, there's a website that I'll show you in a minute. Actually, there's two websites, and I'll show you both in a minute. One's Stormcrows, and one is Meta Battle. Now, depending on whether you're brand new to RPGs, or if you've got a little bit of experience with RPGs, depends on which website I'd recommend you go for to start with. But ultimately, I would suggest going and using both, and simulating a build that suits you through both websites. Now, personally, I use Meta Battle because it's got more information there, but I will explain and show you that later. First off, let's go over hero points. When you acquire hero points, what you want to do is you want to look at these websites that I will show you, and they are linked in the description below as well. And what you want to do is you want to go, right, okay, so I need these particular spells. Now, do any of these particular spells come from the skills tree or the specialization tree? When you get to level 80 is the only time you'll unlock the elite specializations, and that's only if you have the expansions. Okay, so for the time being, don't worry about those. And bear in mind, by the time you're level 80, you will have all your specializations and all your skills available to you. Okay? They'll be maxed at level 80. Okay? Because there's enough hero points to go around everything else. Build-wise, you want to look on, like I say, Meta Battle and Stormcrows, and have a look, see what they suggest. Have a play with it, though. Don't necessarily just go on what the build says. If you use the build and you like the build and you like the rotation and everything else, then by all means use it, keep it as it is, alright? But if you like to have a little play around and customize it a little bit to make it your own character, which is the beauty of Guild Wars itself anyway, what I would suggest you do is use it as a guideline and say, well, this build works. We know this build works, but is there a way that I can maybe tweak it a little bit to suit me? Or is there a way that I can make my DPS push out that little bit more, or my healing push out that little bit more? Or with just a tweak on the build or something like that. Yeah? At the end of the day, it's down to personal preference, but you've got to decide. That's how it is. And I suppose the first question you get is, what profession do I play? Now, if I just go to the login screen and I'll show you the professions real quick. Okay, so if you go to the professions, obviously, personally, I say race doesn't make a blind bit of difference. The races have their own personal storyline that they follow, and it's good to get into understanding the different races and how their stories combine and everything else, and that's great. That's one part of it. But as far as it goes in regard to, does the race you choose dictate how your character turns out, the answer to that is no. Okay, race doesn't dictate how powerful your character is. That's literally profession and the build that you choose, and that's on the next page saying we'll just do this for now. So if you want to be a bruiser type character, a tanky character, someone who can take a high amount of sustained damage, deal a little bit of damage but keep people crowd controlled and stuff like that, then I would suggest using a warrior or a guardian. Warriors and guardians are heavy duty heavy armored characters that can deal a fair amount of damage, but they also have a tanky aspect to them as well. So if you like that side of protection in your gameplay, I'd suggest those. Revenant is a very similar role. It's mainly aimed at DPS, I would say, than a tank, but again, heavy armor, deals a lot of damage. Maybe it's a safe option. They've got a lot of mobility. They're very enjoyable to play, so it all depends personal preference. And then you've got the medium armor guys, which is the ranger, the thief, and the engineer. Now, personally, well, not even personally, actually, I like all the classes. I think they're all very well designed, very well made. What I would say though is just bear in mind that even though you're using a heavy armor or a medium armor or even a light armor like the Necro, Elementalist, and Mesmer, even if you are using one of these three, right, it doesn't matter, because the mitigation of armor versus damage received isn't actually that great between the three sets of armor. But all the characters have a very, very high chance to be able to put out a hellishly high damage in the end game. It just depends on personal playstyle. Do you prefer to be on the back line? Do you prefer to be a healer? Do you prefer to buff people so they do more damage? Do you prefer to run into the front line and just smash people's faces in? That's the questions you've got to ask yourself. And if that is the case, if you like to run in and bash people's face in, go for one of these three. If you like to sit on the back lines and cause a lot of damage, be one of these three. If you like to sit at the back at a safe distance, maybe heal a bit or buff your team and make your team more powerful, then be one of these three. Or, as another notary part, if you do have the Heart of Thorns expansion, you could go Ranger and then turn him into a Druid at level 80 with an elite specialization. That would make him a healer and a buff character. Just so you're aware, I thought I'd throw that one in there. So, that's that for professions. Okay? And personal preference is key in this game. Okay? And when it comes to build, obviously, like I say, there are websites and I will show you them now. Okay, so this website here is MetaBattle, metabattle.com, and this is the Tempest. Okay, this is what I've been running. I've been running the Fresh Air DPS Tempest, and it's an amazing build, by the way. Absolutely amazing. I really enjoy the Elementalist. It's very versatile, very unique, and it gives a lot of buffs and debuffs characters, buffs your team, does a lot of damage. It's very good. It's very, very good. But as you can see here, if you hover over the profession bar, you can see for Elementalist, Engineer, they've got all the professions there. And then you can even change what game mode it is as well. So if you want World v World builds, Raid builds, Open World builds, Fractional builds, Conquest builds, they're all here as well. And then you've got guides for PvE, PvP, World v World, and all types of guides. Alright, they've even got a Discord channel as well, so you can go and talk to the guys and get advice from them as well. And then there's also snowcrows.com as well, and Snowcrows here, same sort of idea. You click on the raids or the factuals, and it gives you some builds as well. So like you can go Elementalist, but these have a limited amount of builds, not as many as the Meta Battle one does. As you can see, Meta Battle has a lot of builds to go through, and yeah. So there's Tempest Healer, there's Weaver Sword, Power Sword, everything else, and it tells you what gear you need at the end game, and what runes you need, and what weapon, and what runes you need in your weapon, and food buffs, and trinkets, and everything else are all there. And then it's, even if you click these, they're like pop outs, so have a little read through as well. They're all individual ones, so they can actually, like, there's a lot of information there. And both websites are very, very good for information. So I'd recommend having a look at both and seeing what one fits you best and what one you're most comfortable with. I will say on Meta Battle, when you're reading this bit, it's just so you're aware. Say you go Staff DPS, you've got the skills here, and then you've got the specialization, so Fire, Weaver, Arcane, and then if you click it, it'll give you a more detailed list. So yeah, that's both the websites, so go over, have a look. Okay, so we're back in game now, and what I'd say is, don't worry if you don't have the expansions, because to be honest, like the thing with the expansions is Path of Fire gives you mounts, and as you can see that guy's glider right there, that is Heart of Thorns. So other than that, viable builds actually come from the original game as well. There are viable builds, especially on Meta Battle. There are some builds that actually come from the standard game rather than any of the expansions. The only thing that will change about the expansions in regards to your build and everything else is the elite specializations. So for instance, on the Elementalist, the Tempest comes from the Path of Fire, and the Weaver comes from the Heart of Thorns. Okay? And obviously you've got masteries and stuff, but masteries you get from everything anyway. You just have Central Tyria rather than having Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire ones. You'd only have the Central Tyria ones, and yeah. So that's basically it, really. I hope this video helped you out. I mean, look at the two websites, see what stats and stuff you require for your gear, and look at the runes and stuff. Like, I've got the wrong runes in at the moment, so I'm not doing the maximum DPS I could be doing. It's because I don't have the gold at the minute. I haven't been using my own gold guide properly. Yeah, so have a look, have a play around, and don't be too concerned with getting your build to a point where it keeps up with everyone else, high-end game, because at the end of the day, this game and all other games is all about you playing your way, having fun, especially on this game. This game is so versatile that you can actually prat around with your own builds and see what works for you and what doesn't. And who knows, you may even end up making a fresh new, brand new build that you could put on Meta Battle or Stormcrows, or Snowcrows, sorry, and yeah, like, if you do, then give me a link and I'll check it out for sure, because I am always interested in new builds and people's way of thinking. Let me know what you thought to the video and if it was helpful or not in the comments below. I hope it was, and until next time, guys, I will say peace and happy gaming.